Hi there, Joel here from Ronin. Today I brought with me a FC Ford 8.8 inch IRS diff for your second generation Mazda RX-7. Like you guys know, I run an FC myself. This solved several notable problems I was having with the car. As I started making more power, I really found even the Turbo 2 diff I was running became a limitation in terms of power and most especially gear ratio. Only having those 410s available just wasn't getting it done. So this is using a differential from a 2002 to 2005 Ford Explorer. It's kind of an interesting setup in that it's got a single front mount, but all of the internals are from a 31 spline, as if it's like the same stuff that came out of like a Terminator Mustang Cobra. You can even get a factory LSD if you get one from a Sport Truck model. So you might be asking, why using SUV parts when you could have looked at the Mustang Terminator stuff in the first place? Well, the answer is that single front mount notably improves things in terms of packaging. The Mazda subframe has a vertical link that runs just outboard of the pinion, and the single-sided front mount, albeit a beefy, huge single-sided front mount, is really, really helpful for packaging. So the way this works is that there's a large cradle in the rear that is bolting up directly to the housing on the pattern here at the cover. We're basically adding in factory mount points just like would have had on an FC. You can use any kind of bushing you want back here that's intended for an FC. Personally, we really like polyurethane or maybe like a Mazda comp bushing for a little bit of compliance. Compliance is important on this particular setup. One weird thing about the geometry specific to the second gens is that the vertical chassis pins that support this thing mean that any kind of pinion load, any kind of rise you're putting in is putting those pins in bending. So this is the one setup of all of our 8.8s that we don't really recommend solid bushings. You can if you must. Just be aware you may need to spend a little bit of extra reaming things and making sure it's landing before you commit and start doing hard launches. The rear of the cover, the rear of the cradle here, excuse me, has notches cut out if you want to run a rear sway bar. The packaging back here is just that tight with a large differential, but we're still putting it really in a place that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of been fairly optimized. So up front, we have a weld-in extension lens this way, if this was the rear. Weld-in because it's by far the best place to attach to the subframe. It does put the load path from below. We know under hard acceleration that pinion's trying to rise. So because of that, we give you a notable side strap that wraps around that bushing and the Ford OEM isolator. And it's down right there. That part is often missing if you go junkyarding or maybe order your diff off eBay or something like that. The last reinforcement to the subframe, that vertical link that I mentioned, this guy goes that way, comes down and becomes a possible weak link. We know how much power some of you guys are making. So having that be reinforced for that load path to the subframe is kind of important, and it ends up really helping out. So with our FC88 standard kit, we're making the conversion between Ford and Mazda in the half shafts. The inboard end is a Ford Explorer CV. The outboard end is a Mazda T2. Can't run NA cars, none of the naturally aspirated stuff. All those CVs are smaller, not gonna work out for you. Both ends do need to be OEM CVs, aftermarket stuff. If you go down to the parts store and buy something for an Explorer, for instance, it won't be right. It needs to be from an Explorer. They're changing things internally, and it's almost always changes for the faster, cheaper, better. Faster, cheaper, not better. Anyways, you need OEM parts and then it all works out. We all aware the Turbo 2 stuff is getting harder and harder to come by. It was already a limited edition. Because of that, this was the product that drove us to develop our Grande axles. The whole concept of Grande is just Ford Explorer inner and outer, comes with hubs and bearings, things like that. We'll make a separate video to talk about those things. We include boots, so you can dial in everything together, assemble to those donor part CVs that you're going to be providing. But at the end of the day, really optimized packaging, way stronger, any gear ratio you want. That's the key things about the FC diff. It works really, really well. As noted, I'm running it myself. I love it, and it just works. So hope it helps you out too.